every day when we are screening 20 million enzyme variants, we keep that data.
Countries were trying to keep you,
Yeah.
to their side.
Yeah. I can definitely say that. We received a very good offer from the US VC, but they wanted us to relocate to the Bay Area.
Move to the next round of funding and then scale it further.
Because these companies is actually, they do have a lot of project, but they need to trust you.
If they want, they can lead the company. They can be a leader.
A lot of time, you have to cry at night, but being happy on the morning. You always have to be happy.
Yes.
You always have to be a source of energy to the team.
Hi, Peyman. Thank you for joining the podcast today. I'm sure it will be a very interesting podcast episode, and I'll be happy to discuss about your company. How did you eventually start your business, and what was your challenges? What is your future, plans in terms of growing the company, and then as well as new technologies like about AI and so on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Baha. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast channel.
Thank you. So could you please explain a little bit how Allozymes actually, started? Did you start thinking about building your company when you were doing your PhD, or it took some time after PhD, and then when exactly you decided to start company actually?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, there was no a startup accidentally, started. I should say I actually started my first startup when I was 22 years old.
Okay.
After graduation from bachelor, I wanted to start something of my own, team up with 3 of my friends, build a company from scratch with pocket money, and we brought it to 50 people company, and I enjoyed that journey a lot. Then after that, I decided to immigrate out of my home country, Iran, and I sold out my share to the other co-founders and came to Singapore to do my PhD. One of the reasons for that was because I always think I want to make something bigger. I want to make something more impactful, and my knowledge was not enough. My network was not enough. So after I graduated from my PhD, I was always wanted to start my second. I was waiting for the moments to come, for the topics to come, And after graduation, I joined a tech firm as a head of business developers to gain more business skill sets. I was there for 1 year, and it was the time in middle of 2019 where my co-founder, Dr. Akbar, came to me with the idea of Allozymes. So we were friends, know each other more than 8 years. And he knew that I had the company before. I had the entrepreneurship spirit. I was not an enzymologist. My PhD is chemical and biomolecular engineering, but I never engineered an enzyme there.
Okay.
So when he came and discussed the technology to me, of course, I understood it very well because of the background. But what I did first is talk with few potential customers. And after I had that chat, it was an obvious fact for me that it could be an impactful and very, very successful, has a big potential, technology. And we team up in December 2019 and initiated Allozymes. So this was the story background of Allozyme actually, when we started all the way. So I was always wanted to start something bigger. And I think Allozyme idea, together with my co-founder, actually, they came at the right time in my life, and I picked that opportunity.
Oh, wow. That sounds really interesting, but still long journey.
Yeah,
right?
It is, definitely.
Yeah. So, Dr. Akbar, right, your co-founder. So, you met him after PhD when you were, working in a company, right? So
So, Akbar and I are both Iranian,
Okay. Yeah.
are both graduated from top universities in Iran, but we didn't know each other in Iran. So when I came
Yeah.
to Singapore, he was actually a PhD student. And when I won the scholarship, came to Singapore, I supposed to start, working on a similar topic, actually, like him. And that's why I reached out to him, because he was here in Singapore, know the country, know the university very well, know the topic very well. And on that time, he advised me not to do.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up not working directly on the enzyme for my PhD. And we become friends actually since then. We played a lot of soccer, drink a lot of tea together, had a lot of chat. But of course, not about the Allozyme until 2019 mid. And we were friends before we start Allozyme. But in Singapore, we actually introduced to each other. We know each other.
Oh, that's great. So when you came to Singapore, he was already doing his PhD,
Yeah,
right?
he was.
He was studying
1 year ahead of me. Yeah.
1 year ahead of you, and then he was doing research on
Yes.
enzymes.
Yes.
And do you remember why he didn't suggest you to study
Yeah, he
enzymes?
told me enzyme engineering is very difficult.
Oh, okay.
which I understand it now. It's really difficult. It's very complicated.
I see. And then you guys met after the graduation of the PhD, right?
Yeah, we were in touch, and
Right.
then we still,
Right. Yeah. You were discussing, you were meeting, as you said,
yeah.
regularly.
Yeah,
But the business
exactly.
idea came
Yeah.
after the graduation. So
Yeah.
you both of you studied in National University of Singapore,
Yes.
right? In US.
Yes,
So
exactly.
the department is both you are were in the same department.
In
Right?
the same department, chemical and biomolecular engineering.
Okay, that's great. When you received the how to say suggestion to start the company from your co-founder, Dr. Akbar, what was your first thoughts? Like, how did you start evaluating? Are you the right? Definitely, you are together. You have been you're meeting together and discussing many topics. Definitely, you are in the same field. But finding a co-founder is one of the most important, right, key moments for successful startup, right? So usually when you have friends, and then when you move into business, discussion, some things might be quite tough to quickly decide if you are right partner or not. So what? Yeah.
So, finding a co-founder, having a right co-founder, I can say, is the most important element of any startup forever, in whole duration life of the startup. Of course, it's more bold at the very beginning, but between all the other elements, I can say this is the most important factor. So for me, when between my first company and Allozyme, I actually tried something else. But the reason for not pursue that one was exactly the co-founder, because I found we are not a good match with the person we wanted to start that business.
Right.
Yeah, for Akbar, we never been like a very, very, very close friend, in the last 9 years, but we were friend. So, and I know all the strength and weakness of him, and he has the similar understanding of me. So the expectation is really managing very well from each other. Everyone knows what to do. Everyone knows when to listen, when to talk, and everyone respect each other. This is a very important factor. More importantly is the level of commitment. Both of us are really, really committed, and this is a very important, ethical manner that you can always check with a person. Like, is really a person, having all of these elements before starting a business, before starting entrepreneurship? Because you need two things actually for being an entrepreneur: a gut and a brain.
Yeah.
And of course, If you have both of them, then you become an entrepreneur. If you have one of them, you become an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for both of us, we have it. We have both of them. And it was not hard to find it. It was not hard to understand, actually, if these two elements exist or not. I can give you thousands of examples, actually, that what happened. But maybe a very obvious one was when we started the company in December 2019, it was potentially the first one. We incorporated a company. We needed to fly to Shenzhen. COVID hit.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It was just.
But we went to
start
China.
Of the COVID. Yeah.
We went to China. We ignored all the news that is come there. We went to Shenzhen for 1 week. At the first day of January, we both fly to China because our company just incorporated in 20th of December. And I can tell you, if we didn't take that trip, because COVID spread very fast, we couldn't go to China until 1.5 years at least.
Right.
And that trip was a huge success for us.
So you went there to meet your
we went there to
customers.
meet some engineers, some customers. Okay. Then after that, we manage everything online.
Right.
But if we didn't go there, and everyone calls us, why you guys are going there? There's a virus there. No one knew what is it. No one knew how it's going to be.
Right.
But then you could see the news is coming like this amount of people are dying. We just said, okay, we have to do it. So, yeah.
So after the incorporation of the company, it was all about action and then taking next steps as soon as possible. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the reason you went to China is to talk to your potential customers as well as engineers who are experts in this field, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the engineers was because we receive investment from SOSV. They had a number of very expert engineers in Shenzhen, but we needed to meet them to work on our own project.
Right.
And this was a key trip that we had actually on that time.
That's great.
The first and the last until 2 years.
I see. Yeah. So when Dr. Akbar came with the idea, so you both of you know that first of all, he is really expert in the field.
Yes.
It was all about technology, the innovation. The next step was for you and with your co-founder to understand if there is a business that can be scaled.
Exactly.
Right? So okay, how did you start that? Let's say the understanding of the business case for that.
So you always do market sizing, which we have done, but the point about Allozyme and our technology is you are talking about the market which is currently not exist. It is growing, right? And we always think about, okay, how the market could evolve to adopt this technology in the next 4 or 5 years. And that's a potential, right? So we needed to size the potential. And of course, they started to talk with the current customers to be able to calculate and predict that potential. For us, when Akbar came with the idea, I need to, give some background here. When Akbar came to the idea, these guys already work on the project, like our technology at National University of Singapore over 2 years.
Right.
So over 2 years, they work with few of the customers in pharma sector, and they spent $5 million. There was 20 researchers in the university from different departments working on this technology to build it. And Akbar was a lead researcher.
Right.
So when he came to me, the technology was not completed, but the POC of the technology was completed. So we needed to improve that. But the first question, as you just mentioned, is who is going to adopt it? Who is going to be a customer? What is the market going to look like? And this was the first elements that we started to evaluate.
Right. When it was right at the beginning of the COVID, right?
Yeah.
So, and the COVID created a lot of uncertainties. How did you manage? Because you met definitely a few potential customers in China, and then you should also meet more customers to understand if this is like scalable, right, at some point. So were you able to meet more customers while in lockdown, right? Or was there any?
It's a very good question. So I can say COVID may build some fortunes for us. Because, when COVID hit, we were a 3-people company. We didn't have a laboratory of our own. We didn't have a lot of operational cost. And the government started to support in Singapore. So as a very, very small company, we really didn't affect it in terms of burn rate, not be able to execute the job and so on and so forth. However, securing the customer was a big issue, as you just mentioned, because you need to travel, you need to meet the customers, you need to describe the technology. But the world, when they found that the COVID going to be here for a while, they adopted an online, work, because economy needs to work. They cannot stop. And it's become a benefit for us because it saved a lot of costs. I didn't need to travel because the customers has no choice to look at us in an online version.
Right. Yeah.
And actually it helped me to work with more and more customers rather than the original format of going and meeting them. So in fact, I can say COVID on that time was a fortune. If it comes again, it's going to hit us hard. But on that time, it was really a fortune.
Yeah. So the Allozymes it belongs to deep tech, right?
Yes.
Because it's not a software company.
No.
Where you can just build your MVPs and then send it to many customers, right?
Yes.
In case of Allozymes, you had to, build smaller, let's say MVPs or I don't know, the products, right?
Yeah.
So that you can send some samples, for example, to your customers.
Yeah.
And that's how did you start in that way, or how was it?
So what we are selling at Allozyme is the enzyme sequence.
Right. I think
so
we
it's
should
actually a code. If some customers require a small sample of that physically, but as far as they have the code, they can produce it by their own as well.
Okay.
So, and this is how we started. We started the business as an enzyme engineering as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So the customers come to us and said, okay, I need an enzyme to be more effective, more stable, and we use our unique technology to screen more than 20 million enzyme variants per day, which is 2,000x more than anyone else in the market. And at the end of the story, what we found is a sequence of the enzyme, a protein sequence that is a code. It has a lot of colors. And then we will sell that actually sequence to them and get the money. So there's no physical things actually is shipped.
Oh, okay. It was data.
It's a sequence data that we are sending to the customers.
Right.
Yeah.
And based on that data,
they can build the new proteins.
Yeah. Okay. So regarding the technology, enzymes, could you please explain in very basic, terms, not very technical. So for the audience, it's more or less, clear how actually it works.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I need to also first say what is enzyme, right?
Yeah. What is enzyme?
So the enzyme is a protein.
Yeah.
There's a lot of proteins around us. Proteins in the milk, protein in the meat, normal protein. Enzyme is also a protein.
Yeah.
But the difference between enzyme and the other proteins is enzyme has a catalytic effect, which means accelerating the reaction around us. Like let me just give you an example. If there is no enzymes in our body or in the plant cannot grow.
Right.
We cannot walk because that enzyme convert a lot of material to energy for us. So it's a catalyst.
Yeah.
It's a natural catalyst. Okay. So there is when we are talking about this enzyme long time ago, like these are around us in the nature, And maybe around 50 years ago, we actually started to use them in industry. We have a lot of, examples of them around us. Like we use it in wineries, we use it in detergent. Like everyone, if they look at their detergent box, there's a number of the enzymes inside that which make our clothes cleaner. And it become expanded to the other industries to reduce the amount of chemicals that we are using and shift to more bio versions, which is enzymes. There's two problems actually exist. By booming of this biotransformation around us, we need more and more of these enzymes to reduce the chemicals, the hazardous chemicals that we are using. But the first question to ask is, okay, where these industries find the next enzymes of their needs? Mm-hmm. And let me give you an example to understand how hard is it to find a new enzyme. Like there are companies nowadays talking about using enzyme to degrading and recycling plastics to solve a big issues that the human make for natures. Yeah. And the way that they found that enzyme was by randomly looking for that proteins in the landfills. So they were see if there's any protein is attached to the plastic that we dump in the last 10 years, 20 years in different landfills around the world, and they call it an enzyme that can digest plastic.
Okay. So they take samples. And then study.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this enzyme that they found making these changes?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that enzyme was obviously attached to plastic and degrading it, but over hundreds or 200s of years. So of course, if you want to use that enzyme in industry, you need to make it more powerful. And then it goes to the second step of problem. The first step problem was where to find it, which name it discovery. The second step is even if you found it, it's lousy. It's not very active. It cannot be adopted right away with the industrial application. So they bring it on a laboratory and they start to engineer that to make it more powerful. And unfortunately, the current engineering techniques, which started around 20 years ago, still stay the same. Mm-hmm. It's very expensive. It costs you more than $1 million to engineer one enzyme. 90% of the time it fails, and actually it takes more than a year. Okay. So that's why there is not a lot of success around us. You could see enzymes here and there, but it's still not adopted very well. So at Allozyme, our technology was to change these two, both discovery and engineering problem. For the engineering one, the way that we are solving this is we screen and engineer more enzymes per day. As I said, 20 million enzymes per day, while the current technology CAP can do maximum 1,000 enzyme engineer per day. So we are actually much, much higher. And that's why we are providing 200x higher chance of success compared to the current technology.
That's for the exploration
That's
part.
for engineering.
Okay.
But now, as I said, there was an initial problem where discovery, where to find it. I have to go again randomly on the nature or animals to find it. And the way that we tackle that one is every day when we are screening 20 million enzyme variants, we keep that data. Right. We code them. We classify them. And we are aiming to build the largest enzyme data set in the next 3 years. Yeah. With that data set, we are solving discovery as well.
Right. So am I correct to say so that with more data, you have more, higher chance of success?
Exactly.
Definitely. And your, let's say, potential or existing, other companies who are making enzymes, it will be really difficult for them to catch up because first of all, you can make per day 20 million, as you said, right? Enzymes during this, let's say, engineering, and then you also record that data, and then let's say for 1 year you multiply that 20 million to 365, and it will be lots of data. And meanwhile, some other companies, they are doing 1,000 enzymes per day, and they will not be able to catch up, and then that makes your company more even stronger in terms of 100%. Making and engineering enzymes, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Hello, today we are here in Allozymes headquarters in Singapore. Today with me, Dr. Pradeep. He will do the lab tour for us and we will see how Allozymes makes enzymes.
Great. I'm our lead protein engineer at Allozymes. I'll talk about how we use biotechnology to improve the amount of product that our customers can produce using biology. And so in the lab, we'll show you from start to finish how we get through the whole process and improve the enzymes and improve the cells and get more product.
That's great. Let's start.
So what I do here is we take enzymes that a customer will have that is used often in a biosynthetic cascade, and we engineer those enzymes to perform better. Sometimes that means they're more active, sometimes more thermostable or stable to acids, whatever the customer's project requires. So that process, we typically try to follow a DBTLA cycle. So that's design, build, test, learn, analyze. It's an iterative cycle that's borrowed from the field of engineering, and it allows you to make iterative improvements and really build a database that tells you what helps most to improve that enzyme's activity or performance. So our customers generally are in the pharmaceuticals, chemicals, or the cosmetics space. So they generally have some chemical. It might be an active ingredient in a drug, or it might be something in a cream that they want to make more of, and they would like to do this biosynthetically. So they would like to have a cell that you feed sugar spit out that active ingredient. And often what happens in this case is you have this series of enzymes. They all need to be active, but one of them is less active than the others, and so you just have a buildup of something in the middle of the pathway. So then they will come to us and they will say, can you debottleneck this pathway? So can you turn this stuff that's in the middle, turn it into the final product, which is our active ingredient that we're actually making money on. And so then they will task us with figuring out what mutations do we add into that enzyme that turn it from a bad enzyme into a good enzyme. And once we do that, we send them either the DNA sequence, or if needed, we can send them the strain itself, the cell that produces that enzyme. And then that will be what we use to deliver on the contract, and then they will use that to make more product and hopefully increase their revenue. So the first part of the process actually starts outside of the lab. That can be basically taking a guess at what mutations would be best in that enzyme. Once we have an idea what we want to introduce, we then introduce those mutations into the starting enzyme. We can also do this with no guesses at all and just introduce every single individual mutation one at a time if we have no first guesses. So that we call DNA build. So we're building different versions of the DNA that each have different mutations. We then introduce those segments of DNA into cells, and we call that strain build. There we're building different strains of cells. Each one produces a slightly different version of the enzyme. And then the next part is called test. So there, we take all of those strains that each expresses a different version of the enzyme, and we run it through different types of assays. One that we'll talk a little bit about is the microfluidics assay. That allows us to test millions of different enzyme variants all in one day. And then we see what does the best in that test. And the last step is we validate that those best performing enzymes would perform better in the hands of our customers. So often that involves things like HPLC here or gas chromatography. So these are different analytical tools that chemists at our customers' labs will have access to. And so we need to make sure that what works best in our assay, in our hands here, will also work well for them. that's an important question. So that's our quality control right there. The way we do that is we use DNA sequencing. So the older methods of DNA sequencing, you may have heard of Sanger sequencing. You'd basically take one sample and you would find the DNA that was in that sample, and you would match it, you would align it against the starting enzyme, and you'd see, okay, there are these mutations. You can't do that with a million different enzymes at once with Sanger technology. Instead, we use either short read sequencing like NGS, which is an Illumina-based sequencing, or we use long read sequencing, this tiny little flow cell here, that's a nanopore flow cell. And these allow us to look at millions of reads all at once. And so we can take these very diverse libraries that contain many different versions of an enzyme in one tube, and we can look at each DNA sequence that was in that tube. And we can say, okay, this has the mutations we wanted or it didn't. And then we can run it through our assays and see what comes out. And we can use that also to assess what were the best performing enzymes once we did our sorting that we'll talk about. So, like I mentioned before, one of our key strengths is that we can screen a library of millions of enzyme variants in one day. That's not something that you can do with, a plate reader assay or with other common chemical tools. And the reason we're able to do that is because we're able to generate very uniform droplets. So it begins here with just a mold. So this is a silicon wafer, and in it you might be able to see these tiny lines that are each going to become channels in a microfluidic chip, right? And so we then pour a material on top of this called PDMS that we can cure and make essentially the negative of whatever patterns are here. The same way computer chips are fabricated. We can then turn it into chips that look like this. So initially, we would have this block of, looks like plastic here, and then we can connect electrodes and different types of tubing that will deliver our cells to this material. The end of that, we can generate a lot of droplets. So here, you can see in this one tube are, maybe you can see there's many tiny droplets that were made many years ago. These are actually very stable. But you can imagine each one of these droplets can be a different version of an enzyme that we would test. And so inside this one tube, you would have tens of millions of different enzymes that you'd be testing. And we run this through our microfluidic sorter, which is the station here, that detects fluorescence. And if these droplets have enough fluorescence, then they get diverted into a collection tube. That allows us to very quickly assess whether a droplet contains a better performing enzyme or a worse performing enzyme. And so we can do this, collect all of the droplets, and then using the sequencing that I talked about earlier, we can see what versions of enzymes were in the winning droplets and which ones were in the losing droplets. This all helps us to have a better picture of what makes for a good enzyme.
So with that, let's say, idea, which converted into product, which at the beginning, I believe, as you explained, the data codes, right? So you had already your first customers. Then next step, was it to get some investment, or you have already had investment first, then you started to talk to your customers?
No, we actually started to talk to the customers even before we incorporated the company.
Okay.
For evaluation, of course.
Right.
And then after that, we raised our pre-seed round immediately after incorporation. And then we work around again another 1 year talking with customers, working on technology. And then it was January 2021, we raised a big amount of money for Series seed round. of the
seed round.
company.
Yeah. For the investors, you already started to talk to them while you were generating some revenue, right?
No, it's in there's always a two type of company.
Yeah.
One type of company is just a revenue basis. The other
Sure.
type of the company is about the big potential and technology basis, which we are actually on the second one.
Right.
So, and of course, you need money to be able to, to accelerate your plan, to execute your plan. So immediately after the incorporation, when we were pre-revenue, we talked with the investors. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could actually secure our pre-seed round quite quick. Yeah.
So for the investors, what's important is, first of all, the potential, right,
Yes.
of the business, and then the team.
Yes, exactly. On that, at
On
the
those
very,
two,
very early.
are those two the main, or?
Yeah, I can say the market size and the team are the main one. The others are good to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For your pre-seed round, how much was the funding?
It was around 250K, something
Right.
like that.
With that money, what did you do?
With that money, actually, you couldn't do too much.
Right,
but it is enough for at the very beginning of the startup. So majority of the stuff we were outsourcing it.
Yeah.
But the main point was to gain tractions, to talk with customers, to improve the technology, and we have done what we could.
Right. Did you buy any equipment with that
Just
money?
a few.
Just a few.
We were in the share lab, so majority of the equipment was there.
Okay.
You need to manage the financing very well.
Right. Okay. So then the next step of next round of funding was, as you said, is much bigger, in few millions, right?
Yeah.
At that time, now you were thinking to build in-house,
Exactly. We built a lot of in-house capacities.
Yeah.
We moved to our first private lab. It was around 2,000 square feet lab and office, and we started to hire the fourth, fifth, all the way to 15 employees actually on that lab. So we become a 15 people company during the seed round. Completed the technology because it needed to be improved, enhanced the efficacy, and also the accuracy of technology to 99.7% from 60%.
Oh, wow.
And then we did commercialization. We started to deliver our first project during the seed round.
So initially, you and your co-founder, Dr. Akbar, were the first ones who are in the company, right? Then you grow to 15. So how challenging was to find, right, let's say, technical experts as well as engineers?
Yeah.
And then,
It was damn hard. So I can say building a team is really, really hard. And it make it even harder if you are building technology, because especially at the level of complexity that we are building, you need a lot of niche talent.
Right.
And on that time, you also need to consider it was a COVID time. So the borders was closed.
Right.
We couldn't hire from outside of Singapore. So we were actually had a
Restricted
limitation.
to Singapore.
To strictly look at the talents in Singapore.
Yeah.
We had a real tough time. I remember one of my employees, he was in Singapore and his EP rejected 3 times, but we didn't give up. We said, we want this person, we should do whatever, because we didn't have access.
Yeah.
And we actually, I can say on that time, we really, really tried to deliver all the KPI of the company with what we had, what talent we had. We couldn't be really looking to being very optimistic about to say we really need an American university talents to look at it. We really sit and said what we have, what we can deliver, and we optimized based on that.
Yeah.
It was really tough, I can say. It was really, really tough because Singapore also in traditionally is a hub of the biopharma, but it's not a hub of the biotech, industrial biotech, which we are doing. And we needed to adopt the talents from the biopharma or other sectors like chemicals, train them, and use for what we are building.
Yeah, yeah. And then like finding a good, let's say, coworker and engineers and talents, right, to join the team. It's
Yeah.
one thing. And once they join, you should be able to, motivate them,
Exactly.
maintain the how to say integrity of the team.
Yeah.
Can you give some,
Sure,
insights in
sure.
that part?
Yeah. I think this section is something that potentially a lot of entrepreneurs in Asia are ignoring it, actually. But this is a very, very big part of a startup's life. I always had a luxury to have a good employees.
Mhm.
And it was a fortune again. They never I never feel lonely
Mhm.
when I work, side by side by them.
Yeah.
They are as dedicated as us, and this was one of the main reason of the success of Allozyme until today. How to motivate them? First of all, you cannot motivate a person who doesn't have entrepreneurship spirit. So
Right.
even the people who can work on the startups are very different than the people that would like to work on more secure jobs like large corporate.
Yes.
So we were targeting our employees not only based on talent, but also based on a spirit, the way they want to work. One of the major questions that I was asking from every single employee is, why startup? Why do you want to join a startup? It's not going to be a stable job. You know that we are going to have a lot of, out of our working hours work, weekends. Why you are interested to join? And this was a big question. Based on that answers, we will screen the employees for sure. But after that, as you said, even when with all of these screens they join, the pressure of the work is insane. And startups always has good days and bad days.
Yeah.
So they need to be motivated. We are considering some cushions and some safety. Like as an example, in Allozyme, everyone has a piece of the shares of the company.
Yeah.
No matter what the job title is, everyone has it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just motivates everyone that they are working for themselves. They are not working for me.
Right.
And of course, we have a full transparency in the company. So everyone knows what we are chasing, why we are behind, when we need to push, when we can relax.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for all of these matters, we managed to, increase the motivation of the employees.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you built your first company, what did you learn in terms of building a team? And then from that knowledge, what did you apply and what mistakes you tried to, avoid?
Yeah. My first company, as I said, I was 22. So,
Right.
and now I'm 36. So when I started Allozyme, I think I was 31 or 32. So we are talking about a 10 years age difference.
Right.
Of course, I become more mature. On that time, my problem was I'm at 22 and majority of my employees was between 40 to 50.
Yeah.
And I needed to work with a lot of workers, like construction workers. So the issue that I had on that time was a little bit different. It was about how can I show myself experienced enough that they could listen to me.
Yeah.
What I learned is also motivation. Like, how can I make my employee motivated? Because again, on that time, I was two problem. I was so young
Right.
that no one make me serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was again like not even expert on that industry, right? And all of the people working for me was expert. So the problem was double. I didn't have a PhD even. So even I was just a bachelor student.
Yeah.
That learning
Yeah.
was really, really beneficial to help me have an easier job with my employees actually in Allozyme.
Mhm.
So of course the gap differences, is not there. The year difference is not there yet. Majority of the employees that we have is on the same age as me. Some of them are between 40 and 50 as well. But having a PhD, which is tell them I do have enough education to understand what they're doing. So there's no question mark on that. Of course, they're better than me. They're definitely better than me in science.
Yeah.
But on the other side, motivation.
Yeah.
I learned how to be a leader on my first, entrepreneurship experience.
Yeah.
Because if you are a leader, it doesn't matter how aged you are, and it doesn't matter actually how experienced or what is the education you have. The people gonna listen to you because they see you have a mission.
Mm-hmm.
They see you have a vision to guide them towards the success.
Yeah.
And this is what I learned very much well in my first journey. And I adopted it for the Allozyme. So actually, now you are asking that question. I was thinking, I didn't have a lot of pain in Allozyme compared to my first experience. But when I just correlate why, it's exactly because I had that experience.
Yeah, that's great. So, but in between, you were in academia, right?
Yeah.
Like for at least 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And skill needs to be usually maintained. From entrepreneurship, you're back to, let's say, you are in academia, which is quite different in terms of like work schedule as well as interaction with the people.
Yeah.
And then leading the, let's say, younger researchers. And then you moved back. You went back to business world. So, do you think this last transition was difficult for you from academia to business world?
I choose to study PhD with a mindset of gaining knowledge.
Sure.
And I never had the ambitions to stay in academia.
Yeah.
So I had a clear goal, actually, why I'm doing PhD.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's very different. It's very different being in academia and also in the industry. What I was looking for in academia was science.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they started their PhD, they become a little bit like maybe under pressure, sometimes disappointed, because they were looking for wrong things on a wrong place.
Right.
They were looking for money on academia, which is not exist.
Yeah.
Or they were looking for commercialization in academia, which is not the place to do commercialization.
Yes.
I knew what I want and I knew what I were looking for. So I had a very obvious goal to achieve. And when I achieved it, I did a transition again to the business goal. I can say that doing a PhD gave me one extra edge. Before PhD, I would call myself entrepreneur. But after PhD, I would call myself technopreneur.
Yeah.
Because now I really, really can digest the potential of the technology in the industry, which is gonna need if we want to change the generation of the technologies in the industry. Look like what we have done 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So this was a really, really a big achievement for me, I can say.
Yeah, that's great. So in academia, you already, first of all, before joining academia, you had already clear goal to become entrepreneur, to start something in that changes the, let's say, world in specific field.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Then academia was more about like a platform where you could learn and gain a lot of skills in the specific area.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So, so back to Allozymes, right? So after seed round, right, you had already 15 employees, and the company, was it growing at the expected pace, or was there any like challenges in terms of revenue?
Yeah, of course there was always challenge, right?
Yeah.
I think Allozyme actually growed in some time back then. It growed faster than my expectation, I can say, and it was a fortune. But any growth comes with a problem as well, because then you reach to the next stage earlier than
you need to
ready.
adjust everything.
And you need to adjust everything. And now we are at a growth stage. So the problems that we have is very much different, actually, than the problem that we had in the last, 2 years. And we are trying to adopt, pivot our mind, being getting used to changes. And it is not just us, it is all the employees actually,
Right.
which make the Allozyme, you know.
Yeah.
So we are, like, I can say we are 30 people company. So you can see it's a double of what I said.
Yeah.
And this happened from 3 to 30 in less than 3 years. So we are talking about each year, maybe 10 new people join the company.
Yeah.
And on such a size, it means new culture,
Right.
new skill set,
Yeah.
new expectations.
New changes for CEO, for CTO.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Different mindset.
Different
You need to-
mindset.
yeah.
So, yeah. Of course, the challenges was from the very first one, like, as you said, how to acquire more customers, how to, prove your technology, how to, fix the business model, how to grow the business model. And in each stage, these problems are evolving. And this happened for Allozyme, like any other, like, startup companies. We always fix the problems one by one,
Right.
because this is too many of them, and you cannot solve all at the same time. And with that mindset, you could be actually successful. This is what we are doing. Yeah.
So in terms of investors, I also sometimes hear and read. It's also depends, right? So some of investors, they are very supportive.
Yeah.
They try to help you open up more doors. Meanwhile, some others, and they. So it depends on a person, on a VC, team, right? So do you think over there is a luck, or you think you could work with any investors that could invest money?
So first of all, I do believe actually that choosing the investors is also look like choosing an employee.
Okay.
Because you need to have a good chemistry to be able to work with the investors.
Yes.
Similar that you need to work with the employees. And the investors are a shareholder to your company.
Right.
So you need to look at it on that way.
Yes.
They are holding piece of your company, look like how you are holding piece of your company. And my job as a CEO is to manage this relationship and motivate them as well, like the way that we motivate the employees is different, but also motivate the investors to secure their interest, not only to give us the money, but also to help us grow this company. And there is more and more of these obvious, efforts is come to the top because nowadays the cash is expensive, the money is rare. So you need to really be able to work with your investors hands to hand. So selection of the investors is actually a big factor. You should not get money from everyone who wants to give you money.
Right.
And you actually need to be selective with the investors.
Yeah.
Similar to them. They are going to be selective to you. You need to be selective to them as well.
That's true. Even under, time pressure.
Exactly.
It's good to take a time to think, right?
Because, you need to understand that company is a financial vehicle.
Yes. Yeah.
All the four wheels of these vehicles needs to work together to bring it forward. And one of these wheels is investors. So one wheel is you, funders. One wheel is investors. One wheel is an employee, and the other wheels is customers.
Right.
If none of these wheels work, I don't know a four-wheel, can go together. So there are big, actually important factors. They're not just money. A lot of people think investors just money.
Right.
I can say that. On the other side, I also would like to, share this opinion that at the end of the story, funders are the one that make the vision of the company and execute the plan.
Yeah.
So I don't think funders should get the money from the investors with the expectation that they are going to build a business for me. Funders, C-levels of the company are the one that has to build a business.
Right.
And execute that.
Yeah. That's great. So at the early stages, the customers, as you said, it started from China, and then you eventually tried to grow within this region in Southeast Asia for the customers, or you just didn't restrict because it was more about like a data, right, of codes of the proteins, so which could, for example, easily send it to the US or to any part of the world.
Yeah. So first of all, actually we had secured a lot of customers as of today, but I can say maybe our first customer who paid us was from Europe. It was not from China.
Okay.
But we had a customer from China as well.
Yeah.
Being in this region is a good question. Biotech is a strategic technology for every country. And when we wanted to raise our seed round, a few millions, as I just mentioned, we received a very good offer from the US VC, but they wanted us to relocate to the Bay Area, to California.
Okay. Yeah.
And then one of our lead investors on Allozymes, they actually matched the offer, and they asked us to stay to build this technology for future generation of Singapore, I can say.
Right.
It's a very strategic technology that what we are building, because it's going to fuel the future biotech of this country.
Right.
For sure. So back to this one.
It's like it was, let's say, countries were trying to keep you, to their side.
I can definitely say that. I cannot disclose more, but
of course,
definitely there's a case, because you imagine, like, the COVID teach us a lot.
Yeah.
The COVID tell us that the world is still very fragmented.
Yes.
We cannot depend on the technology to each other. We have to build the technology of us, right? So back to the customers, as you mentioned, from the very, very first day, we actually started to secure the customers internationally.
Yeah.
Because when you have a B2B business, this needs to be an approach. You always need to look to the customers internationally. But being in Asia is the fastest growing market for chemical industry. And that's why you see a lot of plastic issue. You see a lot of, air pollution issue. And that's why it also needs a solution,
right,
which we are providing.
Yeah.
So being in Asia, we are actually the only company doing enzyme engineering in the region.
Wow, that's great.
All of our competitors are in the US or Europe. And we were strong enough in terms of technology and advancement to not only secure the customers here, but also in Europe and the US. So I can say that over the time, not as of today, but over the time, being in Singapore, being in Asia, give us a unbeatable or hard to achieve edge.
Right. Yeah.
Because we already know the network, we already know the potential customers. We are going to start working with them one by one, gradually.
So if you, let's say, segment your customers in terms of enzyme application area, what would be the top, let's say, 3 or 5?
Yeah. So we built this technology at the university. Like Akbar built this technology at the university, collaborating with pharma.
Okay.
And pharma traditionally is the major users of the enzyme for making medicines.
Okay.
But when we wanted to do the commercialization, we decided to start from food, then expanded to chemical, and now we are expanding back to pharma. And the reason behind that was because shorter sales cycle, need to the innovations, need to the enzymes, where the market is the cycle innovation, when it's ready, which sector has more money at a time, and then we choose on that path.
Right. Over there in pharma sector, how do you evaluate, for example, effect of, let's say, sustainability, application of enzymes for pharma, and over there, how do you see this sustainability and support of the environment?
So in my opinion, we are on the sector of sustainability for sure.
Yeah.
But I do believe sustainability is a little bit overused. It become a little bit of a buzzword. We are looking to each sector not only from the point of the view of the sustainability, but for the point of view of what is the hair on fire problem for them. Like for pharma, as an example that you mentioned, the major problem on majority of product that they do, the major importance factor is purity.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they do care about sustainability, don't make me wrong, but
Right.
the purity is also a very, very important element, because you are competing with chemistry in making medicines.
Yeah.
An enzyme is very, very targeted. So any enzymatic reaction lead you to a much more pure end product compared to a chemical reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we are angling the pharma.
Right. Right.
For chemical, sustainability is a big issue. Cost of use
Mm-hmm.
is actually a second big, factor that you need to, because we are using chemicals with a lower margin compared to the pharma. And the food is about security of the food.
Yeah.
It's about innovation, how you can have a functional ingredient
Mm-hmm.
that you cannot achieve with the current methods.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And we do have actually experiencing a lot of novel foods like culture meats, like plant-based. All of them have an issue of their own that you can solve with the application of the enzymes.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. For the food is more about engineered food. Am I correct
Yeah,
to say?
you can name that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the role of enzymes is to make new proteins.
New proteins, new
and
ingredients.
New ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So after gaining more customers, after getting a seed round, next step was to move to the next round of funding, which is Series A.
Yes.
How challenging it was to get Series A funding and then investors, what they expected from you.
I told you when we started the company, the COVID hit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When we started the Series A, the financial crisis hit.
Oh, yes.
But we were I think we were strong enough in our vision, a strong belief in our vision and our mission, to be able to just ignore the circumstances and then move ahead. We needed to, of course, secure and check few boxes before going to Series A. And after we have done that, including commercialization, enough traction to show that the business can scale, right? And the technology is working. There's no question of technology anymore. We went out to the market to secure the investment for Series A. And I think I talked with around 100 investors, if I'm right, 120 on that range.
Within how many months?
6-7 months.
6-7 months.
Yeah.
So every day you try to connect
Almost every day I had 3 to 4 meetings. Yeah.
Right. In academia, professors try to get money by writing proposals.
Yeah.
In startups, CEO,
Yeah.
Talks to potential investors.
Yeah. And prior to that, I spent around 6 months to work on the pitch deck, storytelling, all the required document that needed to be, completed. Together with my co-founders and a couple of the employees of the company. And when the material was ready, then I was out there to pitch to the investors. And talking from one after the other, we of course, tune the material, update them, answer the request. And what I learned immediately during Series A, because again, it was at the same time of the financial crisis, is I may need longer time to build enough trust. It's not about you are good, your team is good, your business is good. It's also needs some extra level of, caution, safety, connections, building chemistry. And that's why I was a little bit patient with the strategy. I started gaining and reaching out to investors when I had more than a year of a runaway. And the challenge was, again, timing. Because when the money is shrinked overall on the world in the financial crisis, the investors become more and more selective. But a lot of people, a lot of investors actually ask me why you are raising money now if you don't need it like until 12 months, why you are not waiting. And I said, a startup is not a game of waiting, first of all. And the second is, I didn't make this company to gain little money. I want to make a big money, and for that big money I need to accelerate it, and I need your money for that. So they would understand that. And I was also sharing in my mind as well. I was looking to the financial crisis in a positive way. Because if you are a strong company, no matter what is your name, Allozyme, A, B, C, D, what is it?
Right.
One of the main factor is investors listening to 100 other companies, which a lot of them are your competitors,
Right.
and decide who to pick.
Right.
So if they pick me, is a good screening process. They will tell me my company is good, right?
Right.
So it gives me extra confidence. And on the other side,
Yeah.
a lot of my competitors would die.
Right.
So I was looking to, in a very positive way, to the financial crisis,
Yeah.
and we were successful. So it was another testament, I can say, on we are doing good,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we have to continue it.
Right.
So it was challenging. It comes with a lot of course, critical timing, disappointments, a lot of no's. But
Right.
I was looking to it actually in a very positive way, and that mindset helped me to secure the funding in a very, very, like, I can say, the worst time of the market.
Right.
The amount that I wanted, not even less than what I wanted, the amount that I wanted. So I secured 15 million, Series A.
Wow, that's great.
And then we went to our new office, immediately started spending. We had a plan, bought some new equipment, expanded the company from 17 people on that time, pre or Series A, to 32, which we have today. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
In less than 6 months.
In less than 6 months.
In less than 6 months after we get the money. Yeah.
That's great. Very, dynamic growth.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. So, for example, investors usually they invest into specific areas of, let's say, it can be like a biotech. Like there are investors who are mostly interested in biotech because they have more deeper knowledge, they have a background, and so on. So, and did you try to find investors in that way?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
It's always the case, right?
Yeah, it's always the case.
Yeah.
I do always have a list of the investors that I would love to have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
even if they say no to me today, I would still be connected to them, continue talk to them, continue update them for the next round of financing.
Right.
And I always actually, even for Series A, I back to the investors who told me no for the seed round.
Yeah.
And I'm going to back to them again and again and again until one of us give up,
Yeah.
So, but if I want someone, I'm going to go to it because, as I said, they are one of the wheel of this vehicle. It's important.
Definitely.
They need to have a knowledge on our sectors. They need to actually be able to help, not necessarily by connecting to the customers, but just give us some guidance.
So, like, this means in whole world, for a specific area, there are number of investors, right? So means the amount of people who are in this specific area, kind of accountable, I would say, right?
Yeah.
The good investors as well as good companies.
Of course.
So that means you are in a basically same ship all together, right?
If you can select the right people, you always have an easier path. I
Right.
don't name it a safe ship, but you have an easier path.
Right.
But the sea is always unbalanced,
Right. Definitely. So after getting Series A, what is the element of success that you and your investors and your team is looking for so that you will be able to move to the next round of funding and scale it further?
Yeah. So, you use the word that I would like to catch it, scale.
Yeah.
Okay. So in seed round, you're majorly focusing on the technology, right? Securing the first few customers, which we name it early adopters. In Series A, you need to convert those early adopters to real customers who would like to continuously pay you,
Yeah.
you know? And then you need to secure few of them to show that this business can scale to be ready for the Series B. And this is what we need to achieve. So my Series A focus is more about focusing on business strategy to secure more and more customers and move them from one-time customers to recurring customers. To be able to project the scale,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
This is about Series A.
Right.
Of course, we still develop technology. Of course, we're still going to improve it. We're going to expand it. But the main objective is more on the business side.
Yeah. So, when you say to make sure the customers will be yours, I mean, connected to your company, still buying the, let's say, service or products, does it mean you need to provide same service at a higher, let's say, accuracy or more efficient way, or you need to provide new products?
You know, in what we are developing, I can say it doesn't need to be more product. It doesn't need to be more service. It needs to be recurring, because these companies is actually, they do have a lot of project, but they need to trust you to give you this project, because these are not a small project. These are a strategic project for each company that change them from being a chemically hazardous company to a sustainable company. You know, so you need to actually gain their trust that my technology is working. It is the best one. I'm the one can solve your problem, right? Compared to the competitors, and give some safety cushion to them. That business-wise, we are going to support you guys as well to make sure it's going to be executed. Because one of the big issue or big question of the biology is actually the costing, the continuous optimization. So it's not about I give you an enzyme today and then it's done. Actually, I need to give you a novel enzyme today, and I need to continuously support you to make sure that enzyme work the best for you forever. So this is actually is important. It makes the customers from one-off to recurring, I can say.
So you're supporting their business growth
while
you try to grow.
I can say business growth and transition.
Transition, right?
Yes.
Right. Sure. So when you are working with large companies, like documentation and then signing agreement, like might take longer time. So do you prefer working with smaller? I mean, depends on the customer, definitely. But do you have in your customer portfolio like startups as well, where they are, let's say, buying your service and products, and they are actively growing? Like, what is the percentage? Let's say
exactly. So we do work with startups. We do work with a very large MNCs and corporate as well. But the offering is different. As you just mentioned. The percentage is majority of our customers as of today are large corporate, actually. But we are expanding on service in a way that the smaller companies can use it as well.
Okay.
So I can say maybe we are aiming to bring it to 50-50, like 60-40% is still for large corporate compared to smaller companies. But we are expanding the service to acquire them as well as a customer.
Right. Okay. So, like when you let's say get a new customer, let's say big companies, or when you get the investment as the next round, how do you celebrate with your team?
Having a food, having a like going out. We normally had a lot of team activity. We drink together. We play with each other. I really like fun games, so we do laser tags.
Nice.
I mean,
celebration is big part of the team.
Exactly.
Like how to say, team mood, and then supporting the team. Balancing their work and life balance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's great. The CEO position is people say, also you can read a lot of articles as well, like it's not for everybody, right? It comes with pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like not everybody, but everybody, if they want, they can lead the company, they can be a leader. But what the specific skills has to be developed so that you become a successful CEO?
I think it's a very good question, right? But first of all, I still don't call myself a successful CEO, so I don't know if my answer is going to be relevant or not. But just based on the experience that I gained until now, I'm 100% agree that maybe a CEO position, or maybe I can expand it, the entrepreneurship position, is not for everyone, right? This is a very obvious fact. Being a CEO, that tagline, actually, it make you a kind of a, assigned leader, I can say.
Yeah.
So if you are sad, the people will notice it immediately. If you are depressed, if you are not motivated.
Yeah.
So a lot of time you have to cry at night, but being happy on the morning. You always have to be happy.
Yes.
You always have to be a source of energy to the team.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough. I remember once I had a very emotional moment, and I was very sad. I mean, of course, I showed happiness to the employees again, but I was talking with a taxi driver back to the home because he noticed I'm very sad, and he asked, and I was shared the reason. And he told me something that actually I always remind myself. He said, yeah, it could be tough, but if you succeed, what I'm hearing is going to change the world.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking and said, yes.
Yeah.
If we succeed, the world is going to change.
Yeah.
And he answered me, then don't be sad. Be happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it gave a lot of energy then.
It gave a lot of energy. It motivated me. So every time when a challenge comes, which actually comes every day.
Right. Yeah. Different
a
scale,
comes.
right?
Exactly.
It's smaller and bigger.
There's always a
always
problem.
challenge.
There's always a problem. You cannot expect that there's no problem.
Right.
And then I remind myself the same. Why I'm doing this, right?
Yeah.
Why I'm leading this. And one more thing that is always motivate me is not only the impact that we are getting to the world, even now, not become successful 100%. What is the impact of myself as a CEO of Allozymes on the life of my employees, on the life of the people that I'm talking to?
Yeah.
And it's very important for me. Every day I walk to the office, I see that the number of the employees working for me is become more and more. It is a huge motivation for me.
Yeah.
They
trust. They believe in the mission. They see potential, and then they are,
you can imagine that.
Yeah.
It's look like that you have a new baby every day.
Right.
How does it feel to become a father? Right. It's great. I became father last year. I had my first kid. And the feeling, thank you, the feeling was amazing. The new things come to your life.
Right.
And in a startup, every new employee is a new baby.
Yeah.
Right?
You need to take care.
You need to motivate them.
Yeah.
You need to engage with them. And this is what really, really interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're affecting, let's say, to
the
people's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah. In a positive way.
Yes.
That drives you forward.
Yeah.
Still, when stress comes, let's say, definitely startup environment, overall the work is continuously there is a problem you need to solve, and stress comes, and how do you manage there should be some physical activity sides, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, having the first experience, first company is always help, but every startup is very different.
Yeah.
And I remember in the Allozyme, it was once in the Series seed round. After that, we were facing a lot of big challenges, and then I was actually experienced a lot of pressure, late night, lack of sleep. Couldn't sleep because my mind was really busy, and it
Right.
was continued for 4 days, 5 days. You imagine that you
Wow.
don't sleep.
Wow.
And because I was always just thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have a personal mentor, a successful CEO who is managing a very large corporate. And when I shared with him, hey, I become crazy, I cannot sleep, he was giving me some guidance. I think any entrepreneur needs a personal mentor.
Right.
And then he told me it's very normal. I do have it as well. Don't think it's only for you.
Accept it.
Here is the solution.
Yeah.
Go do exercise at least once a week. Those try to shut down your phone. Don't read every email straight away. Don't try to answer. Try to follow 80-20 rules, which is you need to focus on 80% of your time on the first priority and the 20% of your time on the rest of the stuff. And that first priority could be changed every time. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But in that way, you could execute the most important things.
Yeah.
But no one can execute everything.
Right.
And you need to accept
Time is limited.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And since then, I think it was a big help, actually.
Right.
I could manage the company much better. I could manage my task much better. And we try to, as I said, solve the problems one by one.
Right.
But, again, being a CEO, you need to accept that you are going to face challenge and you need to learn how to solve them during the time. You don't need to know everything at the very first day.
Right. And you also need mentors who
exactly. It's going to be
already
very
went
helpful.
through this path, right?
It make it much easier
much
for
easier.
you.
Yeah. Because it gives a lot of knowledge and experience sharing, and definitely having a good co-founder. That's another key.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So right now, let's say Dr. Akbar, he's leading the technology part mostly, right? So now after the Series A round, so you should increase number of C-suite executives.
Yeah.
So to which positions you are, let's say, hiring, or you already hired?
Yeah.
Is it CFO? Is it who are they the mostly?
The C-suite normally is actually, it needs to come to different departments. So like business, finance, as you mentioned, and also technology, because the number of the employees is actually exploding, become more and more.
Yeah.
And these C-levels is adding. Of course, we had a priority, it goes to fund some of these departments first and then goes to technology. Or technology already, or tech department already had more seniors, I can say, that they could manage the job. And we need to focus on building a financial department on this round of financing first. So securing a CFO, financial controller, we were outsourcing everything. So that needs to be built. And the business, because as I said, this would be the major focus of the company. Yeah. So having a directorship levels or the C levels, VP level on the business is mandatory for us.
Right.
And we are actually hiring those positions. And this is the problem. It's a challenge to secure, senior people.
So challenge means first you need to find right one, right?
Yeah.
Who has the skills, who can lead that position, right? Second is
you need to make them interested.
Oh yeah, interested, right? And then is much. I think it's quite different than hiring, let's say, engineer,
Yeah,
right? So
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. You need to find the right talents.
yeah,
That may not be so difficult,
Yeah.
but majority of them have a good job. So you need to be
Right.
able to make them interested,
yeah,
to the Allozyme. You need to be able to sell the vision of the company to them,
Mhm.
and at the end secure their interest
Right.
and motivation to work for you,
right,
rather than look into it as a short-term opportunity.
right, right. So this means, I mean, it is really tough to find someone for C-suite in a short period of time. That means
100%.
you
This is
already
not
need to plan
Yeah, this
in
is
your mind.
this is
started
not
to
a
looking for-
short time,
Right,
task to execute.
right,
Even for all of my directors, all of my senior scientists, we always spend a minimum 6 months time
before
hiring them.
hiring. Yeah,
So we find the talents, talk to them many times actually.
yeah,
I can say maybe more than 5-6 times.
yeah,
We also let the team to talk to them. So it's not just us.
Yeah.
Let the team to talk to them. See if enough chemistry is there.
right,
So and they can work with each other.
right.
Because you cannot just suddenly introduce one person to the team
Yeah,
and ask the person to lead
Yeah.
or the people to listen. It needs to be a chemistry.
right, right.
And it always takes 5-6 months.
Yeah, 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 sure. So, what do you expect from, let's say, C-suite, let's say, potential, let's say, employees, like C-suite managers, I would say. What skills so for example, do you want them to have more skills in startup, or you think those who are in big companies are still fine and they can lead startups as well if you hire?
I may be a little bit, have a bias, but
Yeah.
I don't think if a person comes from a very large corporate
Yeah.
could be successful in a startup.
Mhm.
A lot of, during an interviews that I have, a lot of people work on a corporate. They may think that because they executed one project in a corporate on a department, they already know how to deal with a startup, but this is absolutely a wrong hypothesis, I can tell you. And that's why I always looking for the people who started a company and failed,
Right.
or who started a company, become successful is better, who scaled a business.
Mhm.
It's super important. And I don't consider this as a plus. I consider this as a fact for the employees that I'm actually hiring, especially on the top, on a managerial level.
Right.
They need to think like entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. So you want, you would like to hire someone who has already, again,
A startup experience.
experience, either it's failed or successful, but
100%.
still he has that knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
This is a must for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So when AI came, like a couple of years ago already, right? So with the rise of large language models, and that gave a lot of boost to the field, and then now you see almost everywhere AI is actively applied, deployed, and people are developing a lot of technologies, solutions based on that. So did you have any challenges when AI came? Like, because someone with less data, let's say, who could, like in the same area where, let's say, another company who are making enzymes, who could potentially increase their capacity by using AI, that eventually could catch up the scale that you are doing. Was there any concern on that?
No. In fact, actually, we are using that because there are companies that they would like to use just AI for protein engineering, for enzyme engineering. But those companies were not so successful, and for a very simple reason, the data is not exist.
Right, they
Like,
don't have enough data.
they don't have enough
to
data.
make a
good model.
predictive good AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what we are solving, because we are generating a lot of data actually.
Now you can
we
bring
do-
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can say that, nowadays the problem statement on the data and machine learning is not about building a good model. It's about having a data to train the model.
Yeah, yeah.
And we are having that data. We are generating that data. So we are, in fact, in a better position
Right.
compared to the other companies when you are mixing these two technologies.
So how it affected to the revenue actually when you started
It
to
could be a huge things for us because
yeah.
we do have three business model.
Yeah.
The first business model, as I described and started the company for, was a service for a fee. The second business model is the biosolutions that we are building end-to-end biosolutions. An enzyme that we are finding engineering is the heart of that biosolutions. And it's a co-development licensing model, business model. And the last but not least is our data. So imagine what we are building for the data is a subscription model to our data. So we are enabling
right.
the machine learning companies to have access to enough data. We are enabling our customers to dig in and use a search model to find the enzyme of their needs in our data. So, in fact, it's without, that AI and machine learning being mature enough, our third business model wouldn't work.
Right. Right.
So, in fact, that fueled that one.
Yeah. So you're providing, so since you have enough data, so you're providing kind of a data platform where other companies can access to train the AI models.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
we're already selling data. We have a customers who paid us like a 6-digit and buying
wow.
data from us. Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. So you have big potential in that third business model.
Exactly.
Yeah, which can grow definitely because you're generating every day new data.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. In terms of future outlook, what are your hopes and expectations for the future of, let's say, bioengineering in general?
Yeah. It's a very interesting question that I received actually here and there. I think we have a major technology as of today, which actually started 20 years ago, like at the year of 2000, right? And this is internet, right?
Yeah.
So biotechnology, bioengineering itself is also a major, tech. So if you would like to actually look at the major tech that the human nature built over the time, the first one was engineering itself, which we experienced the industrial revolution, the first industrial revolution. The second major technology that we have built was internet, which actually caused the second industrial revolution, digitalization, that we name it as of today. And I cannot imagine if we can live without internet today, right?
Yeah.
But of course, you may remember the year of 2000. It wasn't like that. Like with or without internet, anyone could live, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same things about the biotech. Biotechnology is going to be the third major technology that we are building for third industrial revolution. There is one very, very important factor about the biotechnology. Without that, we are going to die if we don't mature it, because it will allow us to coexist with the nature. Engineering, internet, it accelerate our production or efficiency. Biotech, it's vital. It will allow us to live, because without that, we are going to keep producing more methane, more CO2.
Right.
The world going to die.
Right.
So you see the importance of this major technology that we are building. So I'm very, very positive about that specific section and what we are building. Whole the industries, whole the chemical industry are gonna experience a huge shift to biotechnology. Because if you look at around us, everything that we use today has a trace of chemical and chemistry inside that. The food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the color that we paint for it, the automobile that we are transport with it, everything, right?
Yeah.
And we are shifting it to biology to reduce the harm that we are making to the nature to be able to live, because we are living on Earth.
Right.
So we have two choices: either kill it and move to other planet,
Right.
or coexist with it.
Yeah.
And for coexistence,
Yeah.
we need biotech.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I'm very optimistic.
So in terms of, let's say, carbon neutral economy, how, what is the impact Allozymes is going to bring to the world?
Yeah. By making an enzyme, we are enabling other companies to have their own biotech, right? And let me give you an example. Like, we do have built 3 biosolutions as of today for chemical industry and for food industry and for pharma. I would like to mention at least one of them to tell you the impact. Like, you may see that the farmers, right, burning the land after they grow up the crops, right? Like wheat, rice, after they harvest, they just burning the land to make it ready for the next.
Yeah.
And by burning those, they are making more than 9 metric tons of CO2 every day. It's huge. So at Allozyme, we actually made an enzyme that convert that agri-food waste, which is currently burning or landfill, to something, we name it fiber, sweet fiber. And that is a new ingredient for the food industry. So we are making value for a human health. It's a replacement of the table sugar, and we're also reducing the CO2 in one side. Another biosolution that we have built for chemical industry is chemical companies and cosmetic companies traditionally extract a component named phytin from actually nature, from tomato, basically. And they need 10 tons of tomato skin to extract 3 kg of that. So in fact, if you want to look at the scale, you have to cultivate whole of Singapore with tomato to be able to extract 10 kg of that ingredient. It needs more than 16 Olympic pools of water per day. And it needs a land size of Singapore. So imagine the resource that we are spending. And at Allozyme, we actually engineered enzymes, and we can produce the same amount, 10 kg, with a tank, which is just 100 liter. So it's at the size of a room. So this is how the resources is, shrink. No land, no water, no tomatoes. And this is the impact. This is the impact on the carbon production, on CO2 production. Reduce our footprint tremendously.
So while you are looking into the future, thinking about like helping to the world, you also notice that there are like many technologies are being born every day. Many research, let's say, publications are there, published every day. So amount of new knowledge is always there, and then is growing every day and then every month. So while you are busy to build a team and lead a company, talking to investors, how do you, for example, how much time do you allocate to keep up the knowledge and to gain the new knowledge?
It's a very good question, because what we are building is a very novel technology. So always being updated is an important factor. So in fact, we do have scientific advisors who are involved in this technology, in the biotech, being a number one, and having access to them is going to be helpful. On the other side, myself, I will spend at least, a couple of hours per week to be able to keep myself updated. Actually, about the trends, about the new technologies in this market, how we can merge even our technology with them. Because, again, building a major shift, building a major technology, it means you need to also be able to deploy that with the current existing and the future technology. And this is a big part of my life, I can say.
Yeah. So you time to time read as well
Of
scientific
course.
papers.
Yeah. Scientific papers,
Technical
scientific
reports,
articles,
articles,
talking with professors.
talking to professors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attending the technical meeting of my company.
Right.
And I do always learn something new.
Yeah, that's great. So what is the next big thing for Allozymes?
I would like to make this company a 100 people company in the next 2 years. This is my goal. It's 3x of the size of us as of today. And I would like to make this company a flagship company, I can say.
Yeah. In
Enzyme. The region.
In the region.
In the region. Of course, for the technology that we are doing.
Right.
I would like to... We are working on a couple of biosolutions as of today that it could impact the human life tremendously.
Yeah.
And I would like to see the day that we are commercializing them.
Yeah, that's great. So are you planning to open, let's say, new R&D labs and scale it in other parts of the world?
Yeah, we are already started our new, I can say, office and laboratory in France.
Oh, in France.
Yeah, we just actually incorporated, and it's going to be the second, mini Allozyme outside of Singapore.
Yeah, that's very good. So the company is growing.
Yeah, we are expanding to Europe, and then
Europe.
The next stage in the US.
Yeah, that's great. So that means you are close to your customers, which are in that part of the world, which makes a lot of things easier, right?
Yeah.
In terms of documentation as well, like legally, 100%. As well as being connected to the customer.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So you are originally from Iran. So as you explained, you studied over there. You did your bachelor degrees, and you also incorporated your first startup in Iran. So overall, the knowledge and an education that you gained in Iran, how valuable it was to explore, let's say, to grow to the next levels, like and then come to Singapore and then start your PhD and then successfully graduate your PhD.
Yeah. So I studied chemical engineering in my bachelor.
Yeah.
Then master's, again, chemical and biotech, and then PhD chemical and biomolecular. So it's a very well connected, each of them chosen by purpose.
Yeah.
I can say in Iran we do have a very good universities, especially in chemistry and chemical engineering. So the level of education was really, really good. It helped me in terms of knowledge. But if you would like to ask me why does it have an impact on becoming entrepreneurship as well or not? Yes. Because, being Iranian, I didn't have a red carpet to become successful.
Right.
I needed to always pave my way to the success.
Yeah.
I needed to force myself to become successful.
Yeah.
So it made me become a thick-skinned person.
Right.
And it always pushed me to catch what I'm looking for. I'm running for my survival. I'm not building company for fun. And I think it's a big part of entrepreneurship spirit. Maybe if I was not Iranian, maybe if I didn't have a tough time back then in my life, I wouldn't have a passion to build something big, to build something successful, to tolerate the pressure, to solve the problems. I learned I have to solve the problem.
Yeah.
I never been in a position to say, here is a success, take it. I always needed to fight for the success.
Yeah.
And being in Iran, experience all of the problems, all the financial problems, company structure, country structure.
Yeah.
It actually made me to be an entrepreneur as I am today. So back to your question, not only the education, but also the circumstances.
Challenges.
Yeah, it built my personality.
Yeah. For the young generation or the people who would like to, start a startup, let's say in bioengineering, what would be your advice? Because this is not a software, type of company.
Yeah.
You need a deep knowledge, and then it requires a lot of effort and then knowledge in a specific area. What would be your advice?
Yeah. So, again, biotechnology looks very hot. It looks very impactful. But as you mentioned, it needs you to have a knowledge. You cannot start a biotech company if you don't have a knowledge,
Right.
because it's really crucial. So first of all, I do not suggest anyone typically start if they don't have a knowledge.
Yeah.
The second is, if they start, they should have a very, very good planning, because building a biotech company is very costly and it's very complicated. But I also don't suggest them to hold. Nowadays, especially in Singapore, University of Singapore and NTU are providing a lot of support for the startup at the very beginning. And this is the time that you need that for having access to equipment, having access to talents, being able to show the POC. After that, of course, you're on your own. But before that, you don't have the money to buy those equipment, and you can access the ecosystem, which is currently available in Singapore. Having that one, I really suggest people to start, because entrepreneurship, you may fail, but you don't know until you start. So then don't scare. Start it.
Yeah, that's great. And then there are some, I would say accelerators, and then these days there are many, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are really good, like Y Combinator, for example.
Yeah.
And some of them are just starting. And then I see in few accelerators, they try to match co-founders, where they request to one of them to be in business area without technical knowledge. Meanwhile, the second co-founder must be in technical area.
Yeah.
So, for example, in YC, they always explain that it's best if co-founders all of them are technical.
Yeah.
So that the knowledge of business can be developed.
Yes.
Do you prefer?
I think biotech, definitely both the co-founders needs to have a knowledge of biology. Yeah. This is my opinion.
Deep knowledge, like very specific.
Understand it. Very specific. Yeah. They have to know that.
Yeah. Someone with MBA, I don't think
they can do this. I mean, there's an example of the failure, a very obvious one.
Right.
That they raised even more than $500 million, but the company failed because of that lack of understanding. So, in my opinion, biotech is very different. And when I'm saying biotech, I don't mean about a product company that produced a product out of a biotech process. I mean a company who would like to make a biotech as a knowledge, as a technology. You need both of the founders or any of them as a tech entrepreneur who has the knowledge and the business angle. Without the knowledge, I won't invest on them. Like, if I am an investor, I won't invest.
Yeah.
But maybe others have a different, opinion.
Thank you very much, Peyman, for your time. I think we had very interesting discussion. I'm sure it will be very interesting for the audience. So I would like to say that good luck, first of all, and then I wish all the best to your company, and me and all the let's say audience. I'm sure they really want to see your company growing and changing the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Baha, for inviting me to your podcast. I really enjoyed the question that you asked, and I'm having the same hope. I hope that biotech become adopted as fast as possible, because we need it. We cannot actually survive without that. And the more and more of talking about it, aware the people about the importance of the technology that we are talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you very much.